bars in a raid. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Good morning, good evening, and hello, and welcome to the world's greatest LFC podcast. It is Kop End Fracas, powered by Touchline Media Group. I am your host, as always, Mr. Krish, on the hosting chair, as per usual. Today, I am joined by some of the best members on Kop End that we have. You're probably thinking he says this week in, week out, but I mean it every week in, week out, because the rotation of cast that we have, it's just sensational. It's brilliant. We love to see it. I've got Julian, I've got Mark, and I have got David. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening as we record?
I'm well, thank you, Rich. Well, I see you got the NWO shirt. You know, in a couple of weeks, you're about to turn heel with us. Don't worry. Got you, bro.
I'm dropping the teas just in case people were wondering. After the conversation that we had on the two-man power trip last week, thank you everyone for your kind words on the pod that me and Julian did last week. Yeah, man, you've pulled me into the neutral zone, so I'm kind of waiting and seeing at the moment. I'm doing the heel teas.
Don't worry, man. Everyone's asking for an invitation, man. As Kevin Nash says, don't worry about it. We'll call you. Don't worry about it. Don't call us. We'll call you.
Elite promos. Dave, how you doing today?
Not too bad, man. I can't complain at all. Just chilling. How are you, man?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. It's been a stressful couple of days. There was a presentation I was supposed to give at work next week, which I ended up having to deliver today. Only being told yesterday that I had to deliver it today. So that was fun cobbling together. But you know, it went down well, and I got all the budget that I needed for this new project. So we move and we continue. Mark, how are you doing, brother? Long time no see. Good to have you back.
It's been a minute, man. But yeah, I'm good. Chilling, just trying to enjoy the vibes. Obviously, Liverpool aren't really giving me too much to scream and shout about, but we move, man. We move.
No, it is. It's a weird one here at Kop End Towers. There's not really that much to talk about, so we're not scrambling for the content, but you know, we are kind of going for all the low-hanging fruit that we possibly can. And if you know us here at Kop End, it's one thing that we don't particularly like to do. We like to kind of get stuck into all the issues and all the stuff that's going on, but quite frankly, there's not that much going on. But there's enough for us to record pods, which is the most important thing. And thankfully, we had some fantastic news drop today that Liverpool's defensive midfield maestro Fabinho has signed a new contract. He's now tied down till 2026, which is fantastic news, which goes along with the news that Liverpool's star boy, number 66, the Lord of the Manor, Trent Alexander-Arnold, also signed a long-term contract extension at the club. Mark, I'll come to you first and foremost. We'll start off on Fab. I think that's just fantastic news. Fantastic footballer. He's very key to what we do in the midfield. And hopefully he's playing in midfield and not centre-back going forward.
Yeah, which is extremely important for us, as you saw towards the end of the season. When he moves back into midfield, he can dictate games, he can shut down opposition, he can cover channels, he can pass through lines. He is one of the best defensive midfielders to me in the game at the moment. And being able to lock him down until 2026, I believe, an extra 5 years, is magnificent for us. That means he'll be with us until he's about 32. And then we can start succession planning. Hopefully, it'll be someone like Gravenberch or the ilk of Bellingham that we can bring in to understudy him and learn from the best in the trade. And it'll set us up really well going forward. I think looking down these players is really important to us because they are getting into their prime years. 27 is when you tend to see the best football from most footballers, from the majority of footballers, from about 27 to 29, where they're at peak physicality, but they haven't quite hit the drop-off where they lose that speed yet. With Brazilians, we know that's always caveated, but Fabinho seems to be holding up in good stead. At 29, he's still able to cover ground. He isn't the quickest, but he gets around the pitch in the way that Fabinho does so well. Mr. Lighthouse, you know, he tends to be the person that we look to when it comes to defensive stability and to break down teams from deep. Obviously, Thiago is going to have a full season with us, hopefully, barring no injuries. So maybe that will ease some of the pressure from Fabinho trying to break down lines from deeper. And they have a really, really nice partnership. As you saw towards the end of the season, again, you could see how Thiago was literally just beaming with confidence as he played beside Fabinho, because he knew Fabinho would be able to do all of that defensive work for him and allow him the time when the ball needed, and was able to pick him in the right spaces as well. So I feel like that's an amazing, not even an addition, I'm going to say signing, but that's an amazing renewal for us.
No, 100%. I mean, Dave, I'll come to you next. I mean, when we signed him, we signed him in what was a very dark hour when you think about it, kind of so close to the Champions League final where we lost in such dramatic fashion. And that was one of the, like, weirdly enough, it was kind of like a lighthouse moment when you think about it. It was that kind of shining light in the distance that kind of gives you hope of what will be going on in the future. I didn't mean that to be so poetic, by the way, just how it came about. But you look at how, obviously we signed him for about £44 million, and how he's evolved as a footballer since he's been in the club has been nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah. It's basically just echoing what Marco said, isn't it? But what Fabinho's offered since he's come in has been nothing short of remarkable. The fact that he's been so adept in performing in two positions last season, both centre back and defensive midfield, and the previous 2 seasons he's basically performing at like a ridiculous level at defensive midfield. Like you would argue that he's comfortably one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. The way he enabled us to press from the front in such a manner whereby what you're talking about, if you compare when he was playing centre back last season to the performance we managed to churn out when he moved into midfield, it shows just how important he's been to this football club since he's come in, and the fact that we get 4 or 5 more years of it, you can't complain.
No, 1,000%, and it's so good. So I'm just going to read a few quotes from what he told the Liverpool website. I'm delighted to have signed a new contract with the club. Since the beginning of the conversation, I was really positive about it because it's what I wanted. Staying in this club, keep playing for Liverpool. Now this is official, and I'm really happy. These last 3 seasons, I've been really happy here. I've learned a lot with the manager, with all the staff, with the boys as well. We've achieved things together, and for me, I think it's the best place to be. The best place to keep growing, to keep learning from the staff, from the boys. Hopefully we can keep achieving good things. Julian, when you hear kind of Fabinho talk like that, talk about the club in such a good manner, talk about the squad in such a good manner as well. And then there's one thing we always say about these lads. They're a good group of lads. They're a really likeable group of footballers. 1 or 2 aside when they do piss us off. just some of the antics they do pull in games. But it's just good to show that it goes to show you that if you bring these footballers through the door, they can really grow and develop here at Anfield, at Liverpool, and just go and kick on to be world-class footballers.
Yeah. Even though we must admit that Fabinho was a highly touted talent before he even came, and like the fact that he got he was gone for 44, we got him for 44 million is quite. It's crazy. Yeah, crazy considering even at the time where he was, next to Bakayoko, one of the top DMs that was on everyone's lips because of that amazing Monaco season. But then the season after, they managed sending him to us, and we got it done quite early. So it makes me happy. We got him at 24 years.
It's amazing what you can do when you do transfers early.
We'll
crazy. Come to that later on.
But we got him at 24, and it's amazing to see like at 27, 3 years later, that we are renewing his contract, and even him speaking about how his journey has been better, the best thing for his career. As we mentioned before in the last pod, we've mentioned that when we have stars at Liverpool, it never feels like they're comfortable. We're never too comfortable when they're around. There's always because we're always we're not at the top of the food chain. They're always looking over their shoulder for Barcelona or Real Madrid or a Chelsea or anyone else. But these group of players, they're really committed to the cause. You can even see it by some of the jokes that he makes. Trying to learn a bit of Scouse. Even in some of the games, the intensity and the passion that he has for playing for Liverpool. You saw in the Barcelona game where he took it personally. Suarez celebrating against us and was really getting stuck in the game. But yeah, man, it makes me happy that we've extended this contract, and yeah, he's going to be the DM going forward, and we're going to get a good 4 more years of a world-class DM before we even have to think about moving on. So yeah, I'm really happy.
1,000%, and it's just great to hear. And of course, I have to mention the young king himself signing a contract extension. It kind of came out of the blue, really. Didn't even have an inclination that talks were going on. Obviously, Trent, not even that it was even in doubt that he would be kind of thinking about going anywhere else. But obviously, Trent signed a new long-term contract that will keep him at Liverpool as well. When you think about, Mark, I'll come to you actually on this. When you think about Trent's development and what more he can achieve in these next 5 years, what do you think the actual roadmap is for Trent in these next 5 years? Because when he signed that contract extension, when Squawker and all the other kind of accounts do the list of achievements that he's already had at such a young age, it's actually crazy to think about how much he's achieved, both on a team level and more importantly on an individual level as well. So what do you think the roadmap is for his continued development in these next kind of 5 years or so?
I think my first sentence is going to say it all. Trent, the future captain. As you can tell, he's already been touted for that captaincy role for Liverpool. Everybody speaks so highly of him, and I feel like he may be made the fourth captain for the upcoming season. Trent has come on leaps and bounds. I remember seeing him quite a while ago, and it was defensively naive kid. I feel like this past season he's improved so much defensively. It hasn't really been noticeable, in my opinion, because of the two centre-backs he's had to play alongside. That has been a rotational basis, whether that would be Fabinho and Henderson, or that would be Reece Williams and Nat Phillips, or whoever was put in that slot at that time. And he's been able to cover for them. He's been able to make those runs around the back and make sure that the mistakes weren't too drastic, even though we played some terrible football in that period and we had some terrible results. There was a lot of good to see from Trent. And then towards the back end of the season, he literally took some of it on his back. And you could tell that there's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and he likes that. He enjoys the fact that people just give him the ball and expect him to make things happen. And he has the ability to do so. He's able to pick a pass. He's able to create chances from nothing. And again, I don't think there's that many players in world football today, maybe in seasons past, but in world football today, there's not many players that can make from right back. And to be so young and to have that much responsibility and to have that much talent is quite ridiculous. I don't think it's a question whether he was a star boy or not. I feel like he has been for quite some time. I feel like he is going to be world class. I don't think he is at the moment. I feel like there's still more facets of his game that he can improve.
So which assets do you think of his game does he need to improve to be world class? Because you could argue at the position already, he's one of the top 3 players at right back.
I would like to think so. For the sake of ops, I always downplay it. And I say, you know what, arguably top 5 or arguably top 10. Because being a right back, obviously we don't play defensively. But being a right back, the first aspect of your game that you're going to get looked at is defending. And I feel like his one-on-one defending is improving, but there's still a bit more to be desired. He's bulked up a bit over the preseason. So maybe he's got a little bit more pace and a little bit more strength to deal with those opposing wingers. But at this moment in time, I feel like he can't be touted as world class when some teams still try and target him. I feel like teams tend to target a lot of right sides in general. It just depends on where their best player tends to be and where their most explosive one-on-one player tends to be. But for us at the moment, people tend to target Trent, even though I believe, not including last season, but Robertson's side conceded more goals. And that's the side of Van Dijk and Robertson. But being that it is Trent, and Trent is looked at under a lot more scrutiny because he isn't the fastest, he isn't the strongest, and he's quite young. He needs to just shore up that one-on-one defensive aspect. And I think his defensive position is quite good, but it can improve slightly more just so he doesn't get caught out. Being that he isn't the fastest or strongest, he needs to just position himself a little bit better so he's able to deal with those wingers. But I think those are the 2 main facets of his game that if he does improve, then we're talking about one of the best right backs that Liverpool have ever seen.
Julian, David, piggybacking off what Marco said there, do you kind of agree that that's what Trent needs to do to become world class, or would you argue that for all the aspects that he has, he's already world class at that position?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to disagree with Marco. I think at this point in time, he's almost irrefutably world class. I get the point that he still has aspects of his game that he needs to refine, But I think, what you're talking about, the age of 22, I think there's no 22-year-old in world football, bar possibly Mbappe, who doesn't have aspects of their game they need to refine. I'm sure if you look throughout history, most world-class players who are world-class at 22, they still had aspects of their game which weren't necessarily deemed perfect. And considering the nature of Trent's game, I feel that he's always going to have he's always going to be like a point of target for opposition teams, and just because of the nature of the fact that his partner has always been significantly weaker than the player who plays on the left side of centre back. So in this season, we can say his partner was that he was playing next to the likes of Nat Phillips, Reece Williams, and whatnot. So it's almost inevitable that the opposition team were going to target him. But I feel that if you look at especially that last 2-3 months of the season, where the form he was displaying, like week in, week out, both from an attacking perspective and defensive perspective, you can't really argue about like his status as a world class player. I think you're talking about a player who I think he only got dribbled past once in the last two months of the season. So like for all the critique about the defensive aspect of his play, we're talking about a player who's definitely significantly improved in terms of his 1v1 defending. His positional defending has improved immeasurably, and you're looking at a player who's now on the cusp of talking to the greats, hopefully in the next few years. Okay, let me backtrack. Let me backtrack right now. But hopefully in the next few years, you're talking about a player who's looking at the greats of the likes of Dani Alves, Philip Lahm, etc., etc.
Yeah, I agree with David as well. I think we're in a weird time where the quality of right backs and what makes a world class right back has changed compared to what it was before. Before it was more on the defensive side of obviously being a defending a player in the defense. But nowadays, the attacking prowess and being able to and Trent is actually one of the best. Is literally or the best in the world at that. So from what I call world class, I personally feel like we're starving of real world class right backs that are both great defensively, especially first, and offensively they're able to help out. But yeah, no, to see Trent though, he's got a lot of time, man. Like I'm happy that he's locked down his contract. Even now, I feel like he's put a lot of players even still are put under a microscope. But they're 22. No one's going to be the finished article at 22. Like there's a lot of players out there that we hold in high regards. As David mentioned, the Philip Lahms, the Dani Alves is even a lot of a lot of players. You never do we know what they were doing at 22? That the mistakes they were making, were they put under a microscope? Was there so many agendas to kind of get at their faults? I doubt there was. We let these players grow, so I feel like that definitely needs to happen with Trent as well. And he has the time. Literally, he's 22 years old. He's going to get better. He's got his understanding of the game will get better. So all of these things, that's why I'm never fearful when I criticize him or when he gets criticized, because you learn these things, positioning and defending, and game experience. It comes with years of experience. So we'll definitely see a better Trent over the years, more than him declining and not being the best over time. And he definitely get to the point where he's the best in the world for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And you'd like to think the defensive aspects of his game would kind of, I guess, revert to norm, if not improve, with the centre-back pairing next to him not being consistently rotated week in, week out, as it was last season, because good Lord, we were starving. I made the joke quite a lot last season that we were, again, one injury away from Ellis or Glam starting at centre-back. So that was it's fun times for everyone involved, really, wasn't it? That. But yeah, I mean, you look at kind of the situation that Trent is in. It's a weird one because he's at such a high plateau at such a young age that it's when you feel like you've picking at places that he can grow his game. It feels really nitpicky to say that he can improve at this and this when he's so accomplished at what he does at this age. But no, I think there was some really good points there from Mark as well. But I completely agree with what all you guys said today as well as too. But it's going to be interesting. in terms of contract stuff, because obviously we know that Liverpool are looking to try and extend Alisson as well. I reckon that will be done fairly soon. But of course, they're looking to try and extend Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, and Andy Robertson at the same time too. I guess that doesn't bode well for the captain, who is also looking for a contract extension. Whether that gets resolved, time will yet to be seen. Just a quick round robin. Do you all think that Henderson should be given a new contract?
Yes, but it should be phased out. He shouldn't be an integral cog in our midfield. He should basically be given a mono role.
Round Q. Dave?
Yeah, like I said, it was undoubtedly, you're talking about everything we've achieved over the past 2 years. Henderson's been an linchpin in that regard. So I feel at this point in time, it's almost like out of like a sign of respect that you feel obliged to give him a new contract. Maybe not to the maybe I'm not talking about a 4 or 5 year contract, but I feel I'm sure they can come to an agreement, a 3 year contract. And like that's the way I feel, and I'm sure that's what's gonna happen. Whether some people disagree or not, I feel like it's undoubtedly gonna happen. Whether it's this summer or in the next few months, so I'm sure it'll happen.
Julian?
Yeah, I agree with Marco and David. Without a shadow of a doubt, Henderson should be given a contract. Even to be honest, not obviously give him anything that he wants, but I personally think he's built enough credit in the bank to kind of go to FSG and make these demands that he's making. So hopefully it gets sorted out smoothly. Because Henderson is our captain, and I can't honestly imagine while he's still playing football another captain at the club apart from Henderson. So yeah, he definitely should get this tied up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of we should dive into his terrorist demands, but only to a certain extent. Yeah, with his recent injury history involved in that too. I saw an interesting tweet earlier on today. The account will remain nameless because the tweet's now deleted, but thanks to the magic of technology, it's still available on my phone. So the tweet went, reasonable to believe that by the start of the season, Liverpool will have Alisson, Trent, Robertson, Van Dijk, Fabinho, and Salah guaranteed with new contracts. You know, which is good. These are all positive things that we all want to happen. Retaining your best assets, key men among the best in the business. Again, I mean, this is a perfectly good tweet if you ended it here. But it then further goes on to say, a successful group doesn't need new faces. It needs to sustain its old ones. Which brings us back to the lovely conversation that we always have about transfers on Kop End Fracas. And it's a weird one because, as the great Roman Reigns said on SmackDown last week, transfers, for some reason, it's like missionary position every single night. The same conversation going on and on. And nothing's happening to spice it up or change the tone a little bit. It's the same thing, the same effective conversation that we're having about transfers week in, week out. But I'm going to come to our resident. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Skepticist.
Skepticist. Oh, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to call you Hulk Hogan, but then I remembered that Hulk Hogan did nasty things. So, yeah, it's probably it's probably best to swerve that one. So, Julian, coming from that tweet, and I get what he's trying to say in terms of maintaining that your core group, the essential spine of your team, is together for the long term and is there to propel you to to secure more trophies in the long run as Liverpool keep evolving and keep going into the future. But to say to not prioritize new faces when we do look at certain aspects of this current squad, it's nothing short of madness, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite insane, to be honest. I definitely get the point of, maintaining your core. I definitely feel like that's definitely true. I 100% agree with that. I have no arguments there. But this goes to show, man, like, a lot of our fans have sipped the FSG Kool-Aid too much. Like, we lap up a lot of the excuses made to not bring in players or for slow transfer activity. This year probably when I don't know how our window will end, but I can imagine an excuse of we had to sort out the long-term futures of many of our senior players, so that's why A and B couldn't be signed, or that's why everything had to be executed quite late. which is personally not an excuse for me, to be honest. I definitely feel like we're resting on our laurels, and it's not looking good at all. We're showing no intent in the market to bring in players. To be honest, and you know, everyone was Marco's probably making that face because he's one of the guys that believe that, you know, that we work in some secret MI5 sort of operation way of getting players, and you know, we won't know until, you know, they tell us on the day. But yeah, man, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. It has guys tweeting like this, so it just goes to show that, you know, we'll lap up anything that they give us. You know, a couple, you know, Robbo, good old lads got signed again, so we don't need to sign anyone. We're keeping the band together, so that's what it feels like to me. But you know, we'll see, man. We'll see how things end, but it's not looking good at all.
So can I jump in there real quickly?
Oh,
So just explain the face.
Of course.
So I pulled the face for resting on your laurels. I don't think that's what Liverpool are trying to do currently. And that's just based on what we've been fed. There's obviously been news of, oh, you know what, Liverpool can't sign anyone until we shift these players. But there's always been the news of Liverpool and a midfielder to replace Ronaldo, Liverpool and an attacker to just refresh the front line. And I don't think they go into the season without getting an attacker. I feel like the midfielder could be done without, because they're going to... I'm hoping they don't.
So you're bargaining now, yeah? So, like,
I hope they don't.
You know, if you can't do it now, might as well do it next season, and then, you know.
I do want to ask you guys a question about the midfield, by the way, but I'm going to save it till after Marcos made his point.
Cool. So I feel like, yeah, between, and I hate to say this, between Naby, Curtis Jones, and Elliot, they're going to try fill Genie's numbers. So
I agree. To be honest, they should have been doing that though. No, I can't lie. I disagree. They should have been doing that. I feel like KR, especially Jones last season, should have got a lot more games when Genie wasn't on the pitch. But I get it. The number 6 role is a bit techie. Genie has to play quite a few games, but still, man. Even against I feel like midfield was stacked. They've not been good when they've come on. They've not been given a fair run of games to kind of have a full assessment of them. Even KR, like, you know me, I'm onto his neck, but I can't really say that he's been given a good 5 games of football where we can make a full assessment of, you know, that he doesn't deserve a chance. But his injury record is just the problem.
So that's what I feel like is going to happen. The only reason I don't want that, from my point of view, is Genie was able to play the 6 and the 8 comfortably. He wasn't the greatest 6, but he was still able to do that role for us. And at that moment, in this moment in time, I feel like we only have one specialized 6. We sold Marco Gurich, who could have played in that 6 role. Thiago can play in that 6 role, but being that he's always played in a 2 with the 6 role, he's always had someone next to him to do a lot of the defensive work. And we've seen him play towards the beginning of the season. I don't really like him in that role. I rather him in the 8 where he can pick up and dictate from where he wants to be, rather than having to be forced in front of the defense, especially with the fact that we're going to be playing Konate and a new centre back, and possibly 2 people coming back from long-term injuries in Van Dijk and Gomez throughout. Someone's going to need to be immobile enough to cover them just in case the worst happens. Not the worst happens in terms of injuries, but in terms of someone just running out of back line. You don't want Gomez and Van Dijk sprinting their hardest because they still need a bit of rehab, still need to get back up to speed. So I do want someone that can play the 6 and the 8. And personally, I feel like I've said my stance. I feel like I want 5 signings, and I've been saying this from the season ended. I wanted a centre back, I wanted a backup right back, which I've been screaming for some time, or someone that can play right and left back. Temiskas' preseason is kind of encouraging me, so I don't want someone to play left back anymore. Give me a specialised right back. I don't think Nico is it. I haven't seen too much of Conor Bradley. So I would want someone experienced enough that would be able to take minutes on the bench, take minutes from the bench even. I would want a CM that can play 6 and 8. Ideally a specialized 6, I don't mind. Then I would also want a hybrid of a midfielder and attacker. So maybe an Aouar, maybe a Rafinha that can play in that inside channel slot and play in the 8, and then a number 9. But I don't know if Liverpool are going to give me all 5 of those. I think they're going to give me 3 in terms of Konate, a CM, and an attacker.
Yeah, you're not getting 5. You are
Yeah,
mad if you think you're getting 5, by the way.
As long as they give me Mbappe 2022,
No,
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just save this money for Mbappe. If that's what you're doing, I'm cool with it. But
They told us this last
it better
summer.
be Mbappe, bro. It better be
Yeah,
Mbappe.
they told us this last summer. Last summer, this summer is going to be the one that they're moving mad. I can't lie, and the sooner we accept that, the easier the blow will be to take. When we are disappointed with probably one signing because they just decided, fuck it, Shaqiri's probably going to get sold or something like that, and then let's just sign someone because we need to sign someone. I'm not looking forward to this. It's quite sickening, to be honest. Can't lie. FSG they're just dickheads. I don't know the way they operate. They're decent owners. They've done their thing. Yeah, thanks for winning us the league and Premier League and all that. But I gotta be honest, man, this is just so demotivating. Like every single summer, like nothing happens, and even if it does happen, 2 weeks before the season, really, like we're gonna buy. And I've always said if it's someone marquee, I wouldn't mind it. Like someone that can honestly be a first team star, it'll be great. But let's be honest, man.
So Julian, when you say marquee, what kind of what player are you thinking, name wise?
A player with Champions League experience, a player who can at least, if they're not in Champions League, not saying the likes of Grealish, but someone that you can get from a maybe like a Rafinha or someone like that you can get, and you can be like, if they come into the Champions League, they're gonna ball out. Someone that's marquee. Rafinha comes to mind. Who else? I mentioned some names, like obviously we're not going to get them, but the level of Dybala, a Felix, or even a Martinez that you mentioned earlier, even that level I would love. But are we going to get that? Probably not. Most likely not, to be honest. We're probably going to get someone like Vlahovic, if we even get that, and Niehaus, maybe, because we were just talking about them today. Like I don't know. We don't know what's going on. We don't have a Scooby, and we're just here chatting shit about players that we don't even know about. Like we don't have a Scooby because we get no information whatsoever, and it is what it is.
This is my favorite thing, by the way, about the consistent arguments in the Kop End group is when Julian tells Mike that he has no idea about any of these players because it's just the funniest fucking thing.
It's funny because
like, you know what I mean, it's
funny
stuff.
because we can watch because I feel like to expand on that point. Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans do this where they get linked with a player and then they start watching them and then they start making their judgment. Okay, this is how he'll fit into Liverpool because he can do this, or if he's missing a couple of things, Klopp can work on this and that, and then they just say, yeah, we want them. Like if for example Mike, and I don't believe he was, by the way, watching the Bundesliga and watching Borussia Mönchengladbach every week and just thought, oh, you know what, this Niehaus brother, yeah, he looks good. Like every week, all season, I'll be like, yeah, fair enough. But I doubt that. I doubt he done the same with Fiorentina. He probably done it when we got linked to them, and then he's like, yeah, man, we can do the thing. The Eddie Murphy meme where he's scratching the back of his head, like, yeah, we can work with this. So, but no, it's all love, Mike, man. You know these players. I just don't believe you.
Yeah, I know Mike was watching he was watching Bundesliga, but not the Bundesliga that we know it. Dave, we've not really. Yeah, I was quite nasty if you had said that, wasn't it? We've not really had your viewpoint on the transfers on the pod, but I know that you're a man of rational means. You're a calm man.
Of course.
I know you're not expecting big fireworks, but you're expecting key cogs to be put into the Liverpool machine. So let the world know the David stance on the current Liverpool transfer situation, because I think it's a really good stance to have.
Look, I'm a bit different to both Julian and Marco. I think Marco is both I like Marcus. I don't want to call Marco delusional, but I say when he shouted at 5, honestly, I couldn't stop laughing. That was hilarious.
Wait, don't get me wrong. I don't think we're getting 5, but that's what I would have wanted. I would have wanted 5, but
because I think as Liverpool fans, I think there needs to be a certain level of objectivity. What you need to do is assess like the nature of the squad right now, and like I think we were all in agreement last season that there were 3 positions that needed to be strengthened as a matter of priority, which was centre back, which we've done, a forward and a midfielder like Marcus said, that can primarily play as both a 6 and an 8, just because of the nature of both Henderson and Fabinho's injury struggles over the past few seasons. So I still feel that Liverpool are more than capable of getting that level of business done, just because of the time left in the transfer window. You're talking about today's the 3rd of August. Transfer window closed on the 31st of August. There's been a lot of frantic. I don't even know, just a lot of anger towards Liverpool over the past few weeks in transfer window. I think a lot of it has been spurred by the fact that we've seen United sign the likes of Varane and Sancho. You see Chelsea get linked to the likes of Haaland, Lukaku, similar to City with Grealish and Kane. But I think if we're all objective, aside from United, none of the teams that would consider our peers and our direct rivals have signed anyone that will significantly improve their team. I think if you look across the market, there isn't currently the requisite quality that you say, okay, this player is currently available and this player for a gettable price, and he will significantly improve our team. If you like Julian was saying that there's no recognized number 9. There's no recognized number 9 in world football that you can point out and say, okay, if Liverpool to acquire him, this guy would significantly improve our team. Like my thoughts on Vlahovic are well known. Like I have nothing against the guy. I just feel that with one season goal scoring in the bag, you can't. I was still fearful of Liverpool to splurge 60-70 million on the basis that there's no guarantee that's replicated. Like he has all the attributes, but there's no at that age. We like I said previously, we've seen in Italy like Piatek, Belotti, Berardi, who've had crazy breakout seasons and just failed to follow it up.
David, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Do you actually think it's okay that we have on the 3rd of August that we've signed absolutely nobody, even after the season?
That's not absolutely nobody though. By the way,
have we signed nobody? Clearly, Konate is a Liverpool player right now.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And I think we were all in agreement. I think, like at the end of last season, we were all in agreement that we had one priority position, which was centre back, and by the end of May, Liverpool had secured that position. I'm sure we will all agree with the top quality prospect. So what I feel Liverpool are doing now is assessing the market and see. I think there's an issue. Obviously, I think the homegrown foreign rule is obviously acting as a sticking point for Liverpool.
It's safe to say that is firmly biting on our arse right now in terms of the fact that we can't register anyone.
And why is that a problem? Because we can't shift these guys. We're rejecting deals. We're trying to find the right price. It's all long, bruv. It's peak, man. Like, look at how we operate. Has what it's done to us. It's bit us in the arse. If you could have got rid of Origi last year when Wolves wanted him, that would have been nice. Could have got rid of Shaqiri when actually, not to be fair, he wanted to stay. But I don't know what happened to the bid this season. I mean, there were bids there. Liverpool didn't want to take it. The same with Wilson. The same with a couple of other guys. And look at us now, scrambling because now Origi and Shaq have spent over a barrel because they don't want to leave. Got their feet up, comfy.
You would say, look at us now,
like the stepdad and baby boy, headlocking us. We are not rated.
Like we're in the mud. You talk like we're in Arsenal mud.
No.
Like,
But
we're not there, bro.
We're different levels, man. Like I can't lie, we're different levels, man. We're different levels to the point where I'm allowed to get pissed off at the fact that it's the 3rd of August and we've signed one centre back that was meant to be signed last summer. Do you know how nuts that is? Liverpool Football Club, Premier League champions after three summers, of not spending significantly, have made one priority centre back that we needed last summer. They're only signing in the season starts in 2 weeks.
Centre back that we should have signed last summer. Bayern did exactly the same thing with Upamecano. Sorry, they wanted to sign him last summer. They weren't able to. They signed him this summer.
That's good for them, man. Good for them. Nice. I don't care about Bayern. Good for them, man. Like, come on, man. Like, let's be serious, bro. Like,
let's get into this discussion. Let's have the discussion that we're having on the group chat in this vicinity where viewers can see it. So I think when you name your strongest side, yeah, there's not too many players available on the market right now for a decent price that will improve our starting 11.
So this is what it all comes down to. Sorry to interrupt you, Marco. So when we're thinking about the players that we need, what would you say the players we need realistically are? So for me, when I'm thinking about it, of how we improve this Liverpool season, I think it's players who have the ability to become world class over the next 2 to 3 years as the squad evolves. But I also think it's players at this current moment of time who have enough ability, enough aware around about them to put a lot of pressure, and I mean like breathing on guys' necks, to be on the cusp of breaking into the starting 11. Would you guys agree with my kind of assessment about what we need from the transfer market at this moment in time?
1,000%. I don't think we need to bring in anyone that's going to immediately displace somebody in the starting lineup, but is going to put the pressure on. Like you said, I feel like they need to be content with a bench role, but similar to when Jota came in and he said, you know what, I understand I'm going to be behind these guys, but when I get on the pitch, I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to show Klopp why I should be in the starting lineup. I feel like that's the mentality we need across the board with any signing that we get, and finding those players that are going to be happy with a bench role, especially when they're coming from a team where they're starting, because that's what the quality that we're looking at is. Like, we're looking at players that starting week in and week out for their clubs, and they're going to have to come and play second fiddle at the moment until they're able to do that breakthrough. I don't think there's a lot of players that are going to be happy with that bench role. And that's what I feel like the sticking point is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I disagree. I feel like the stature and level that we're at now, there's definitely players, if we're honest with them and told them, listen, you know what we are. We know what we're about. We just won the Premier League. We just won the Champions League. We have an elite coach, elite manager, and you will get your chance if you got a whole bench, because, like, we've got the most recognized players in the world. Like, for example, there's even some forwards out there that even know, like, if I go to Liverpool Football Club, there's a chance of me winning trophies, but I'm not going to start ahead of even Bobby Firmino because of how much we use him. If we get another winger, they'll know that they're not starting above Salah and Mane. If we get a DM, they know they're not going to start above Fabinho. But what we can promise them is trophies. Like, we can promise them success here, especially if we get the players of quality. I definitely feel like, even to your question about who can come in and improve our starting 11, I don't think that's what a lot of the people that are getting at FSG and our transfer business are getting at. They're getting at the fact that, you know, we've seen what we have when we rely on our backup. It's Origi and Shaq, and they're not it at all. Like, we need players where they're going to push for the first team, they're going to push for the second team, and I don't want it to be a case of where we again have to rely on all of our main players to play 32 games plus in the season just for us to win the league. Like, rinse every single, even for some will be 36, 37. For us to just rinse every bit out of them. We need that leeway when Jota came through and was able to start bagging goals in all positions, especially even right back. To be honest, I don't want to see Nico Williams, but that's a quality issue. But in terms of midfield, especially DM, I don't want to see Fabinho playing like 30 or being forced to play 30 plus games, because one, his legs can't take it. We've seen it already, and two, he just needs some time off. So yeah, man, like, we definitely need to build on a squad that we already have, because again, starting 11 we're there, but squad wise, beyond that starting 11, you could really say that a lot of teams have us by the neck.
Okay, I want to do a quick retort there. So you mentioned there's a lot of players that would come in and be happy with a bench role. We've seen this with Werner, where Werner said, you know what, I'm not going to start ahead of Mane, Firmino, Salah, so I'm not going to come.
You believe that?
Apparently.
I promise you. I promise you.
But Werner, the same guy that's saying, you know what, I saw these English centre-backs and then I'm not about it. Like, I feel like he has that mentality. I don't think that's a lie at all.
No, I promise you. He saw a Chelsea offering him 200 grand a week, living in London. I'm going there. And Liverpool said they wasn't going to match the wages. So
I hear it. I feel like that may have been the final issue, like, as to why he moved. But I think the sticking point was, I'm not going to start a because we were linked way before Chelsea were, and I feel like that was a sticking point for him.
I think Liverpool pulled out of that one. I don't even.
Maybe so.
Yeah,
don't
we
even
also
know till we get
it was
back
also
on
an issue.
things going,
It was
but-
also an issue with the release clause as well. So because we did want to pay the release clause in full, we wanted to do it in installments. So yeah,
To be honest, I'm happy we didn't, because as much as I feel like for us,
yeah.
like there's other players out there that I feel like
I was going to say my feelings on the matter are very, very
yeah,
clear.
man. I'm not too. Werner's not the hill I'm gonna die on, man. Like we
Nah.
didn't get him. Fuck him, innit? And also quality wise, yeah, I feel like people understate our quality at the moment. I feel like midfield is kind of an issue for us right now. I feel like we've got young emerging talent that is going to go into midfield in terms of Elliott and Jones, and they're kind of unknown quantities because we haven't really seen Jones too much in the Premier League. We haven't seen Elliott at all in the Premier League, but those two could have extremely good breakout seasons. I feel like we're going to get our first full season out of Jota barring any injuries, so that magnificently upgrades our squad depth in that area. And in terms of what you said about players playing over 30 plus games, Klopp lacks rhythm. Klopp lacks consistency. He doesn't like chopping and changing his team. Even when Jota was playing well off the bench, he kept Fabinho in because he doesn't like chopping and changing. Or I'm assuming that's the reason. I don't know why he would keep Fabinho in, because fuck. But rhythm is essential. So we are going to have to expect teams to play 30 plus games. So members of our teams to play 30 plus games. And I don't have the stats up right now about how many games people play within championship winning teams, but I'm sure it would be about the 27 plus mark. You wouldn't be able to chop and change too many players within a team and still win the Premier League, unless you are of the ilk of City, where you have superstars on your bench and you can just chop and change as you wish. I'm sure within the past 2-3 seasons, Fernandinho's played a significant number of games. Last season, Diaz played almost every City game.
You're right. You're right. I do take that back. Every player needs to play 30 plus games. The top dogs needs to play 30 plus games. So I'm even thinking of stats like, man, am I playing 35 games and scoring like 32, like the top level, like 28 goals? And I definitely do.
And players do want to play. They don't really like being rotated too much, as we saw with Mane towards the end of the season and his little strop with Klopp. That was a bit poetic there, but a strop with Klopp. People don't like being taken out the game, and if we are going to bring someone that is going to challenge the front line, we also need to manage the egos of the front line, and Klopp is someone that's really good at doing that. And I feel like that will play a part. It's not going to play a significant part because Mane, Salah, and Firmino don't have the egos of certain superstars at certain teams like PSG and Barcelona's, but it will have some sort of semblance towards them that they want to be the top dog. They want to be able to be a starter every single game. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out. And obviously we've got 28 days left. I still expect us to grab a player or two. I'm hoping it's 2. But yeah, man, I still think we win the league. By the way, just throwing that out there.
I'm really confident they'll bring 2 in, just because they need 2. You know, honestly, because I think 5 will leave. Who those 5 are is probably going to be some combination of Shaqiri, Origi, potentially Minamino, Phillips, and one more, potentially Neco Williams. What happens there yet to be seen. But they're going to need to bring 2 fairly decent class players in, and that can be ready to hit the ground running when they are called upon. Because it's the weird thing for me, like, obviously I want the players to be in the door and to be able to hit the ground as quick as possible and get a decent preseason in with the rest of the boys. I mean, I posted a video on the main account today of Konate, and you can see how he's already got the camaraderie, finally got there in the end, down with the boys. And, you know, he's looking to settle down into that system quite quickly, and it looks like he has.
Sorry, Chris, I quickly want it to be known that they are officially making jokes about Liverpool's inactivity in the transfer window on Love Island.
No,
wait, what?
The commentator is a Liverpool fan, so he's like, apparently made a joke about Liverpool making no transfers. Yeah, man.
When it comes to me and we're lifting the title again, wait on us.
This is where we are, man.
Man, Liverpool.
We're all logical. We're all going to sign. Liverpool are going to sign someone. I think if everyone takes a step back and test the situation, Liverpool are going to sign someone. What I think Liverpool are doing at this point in time, I think we're just assessing the market. I tweeted a couple of weeks ago, like in jest, that Liverpool are the kind of club that will sign Griezmann on loan, like in the final week of the season, just because I feel that in the market we're currently in is a buyer's market, and I feel like the longer time goes on, I think you'll see a lot of teams become desperate to offload players just to balance the books. I think,
and especially with sorry to cut in, David, and especially with the financial woes of a lot of football clubs. Yeah,
I think that if you look at Barcelona, especially, we're looking at a situation whereby they've got Depay, Aguero, Emerson Royale. Who else did I think they signed Eric Garcia, and yeah, like on the quiet, like barely anyone talking about it right now, but as all their players who went on their various international tournaments are coming back, Messi's still technically unemployed. So Barcelona are going to have to do something about that to vacate space for him. And in my opinion, there's an opportunity to grab someone like Griezmann on loan from Barcelona in the final weeks of the season, in the final weeks of the transfer window.
Do you honestly think Liverpool will do that?
I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying that's the kind of. I'm just saying there's potential to do that. I think if you look at like Arsenal in 13-14 when they bought Mesut Ozil, I don't think anyone in Arsenal went into transfer window saying, okay, number one transfer target for this summer is Mesut Ozil. But as transfer window goes on, various situations happen, opportunities become available, and players that you couldn't even fathom at the start of the window become available, and then you move. And I feel that what we've seen from Liverpool over the past few years is that Liverpool are very opportunists in transfer market. Like we can all debate whether it's worked out or not, but like Minamino, Liverpool went in for him just because of the value of his release clause at the time being ridiculously low at 7 million. So Liverpool said, okay, that's a chance to get him. Let's go. You look at Thiago. I don't think before the initial rumors started, I don't think any Liverpool fans saw midfield as a priority last season as a place to get, and I don't think any Liverpool fan envisioned the fact that Thiago could be a Liverpool player. But because when the transfer window does is creates situations that no one could even fathom, and Thiago is a Liverpool player, and I still believe there's a potential for that kind of thing to happen this summer, whereby as teams definitely try to offload players. We're talking about Inter being strapped for cash, whereby Lukaku or Lautaro might leave. You might see Liverpool, and you might see Liverpool jump in that conversation. You just look across Europe, where various teams outside England are strapped for cash, and I feel Liverpool might see that as a viable option to move. And that's just my opinion, isn't it? So that's why I think I'm a lot more relaxed than the rest of you in regards to Liverpool transfer business, just because I'm confident that Liverpool won't go into the season without strengthening the areas that need to be strengthened, especially given the fact that we're talking about Mane and Salah are still going to AFCON in January, so they're going to be missing a crucial part of the season. I think Liverpool are not that negligent to allow themselves to be in a situation whereby they're scrambling for cover in that position.
Oh, just like we did in January.
You're a very smart man, David.
Just like we did in January. Oh, mad. Yeah.
A long time ago, by the way.
I think the January situation was a peculiar one, just because I think Liverpool had their ideal centre-back target, which was Konate. And I think Leipzig were in a position whereby they didn't want to obviously offload their centre back. And what we've seen previously with, in fact, the centre back position with Van Dijk is Liverpool. When Liverpool have their eyes on a target, Liverpool are not willing to compromise. So what they did was they just brought in two players that they didn't see a long term future with, and to cover short-term problems, because I think we all agreed that last season centre-back issue wasn't a long-term issue that Liverpool had to address. It was just a short-term issue to get us from January to May, and from there we can address it. We can address it like we've basically done now. So that's like I said, I'm not worried. You should. I don't understand why certain people are worried, but just because we know what we know, Liverpool are not the types of rest on our laurels, as Julian said. When Liverpool are in position to capture, when Liverpool see an opportunity, Liverpool strike, and I'm sure we'll do the same again.
Spoken like a true company man.
Yeah, I think David raised some really good points there. I think it's a weird one. So I think if you look at it at the moment, obviously Liverpool scout on a tier-based system. So the majority of the targets that we've been linked to at the moment for both the attacking and midfield positions are kind of category B and to a certain extent category C players. If you put Jared Bowen into that equation. So, and there might be an opportunity for, with the financial difficulties that are going on across Europe still, that a Category A player does become available within the final 2 weeks to the market. And if a Category A player does become available, Liverpool could have the opportunity to jump in there, permitting that we've actually got some of the bums off the books, which would be fucking nice. And we can kind of address those needs by hammering on the market inefficiencies, which would be fantastic, and it's something that we should be doing anyway. And the second point is we don't really do half measures, so we don't. It's very rare that you see us do the loan move or the short-term deal that will hold us over for 12 to 18 months. If Liverpool are going to address something, they look for those kind of really quick. Not even quick. They look for those long-term sustainable solutions in all the positions. So it's going to be someone who's going to be at the club for 3 to 4 years, and then either builds up more resale value or they can not sell at a net loss. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all kind of comes together because, we need 2 players. Players are going to leave, and we just need to kind of just build that artillery into the system so we can when we get to crucial points, let's say October, November, we've got relevant people who can come off the bench and do a job, or be rotating into the lineups and hit the ground running and start hammering to get us out a nice 10 point, 12 point, 15 point cushion, which would be nice. Bulldoze it again like we did when we won the league. So yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. Pre-season, there's not really much to talk about. Timeline got a little bit of a nice laugh of a man who came back from playing football for the first time in almost 12 months, getting his toe caught in the turf and slipping over a little bit. But, what they didn't notice was the recovery speed still was there, which is frightening considering this man tore his ligament in the knee. So he'll be back soon. He'll be back firing, closing down people and knocking people out. But yeah, pre-season's going quite well for the Reds. We've been slightly impressed by players such as players who we didn't really expect much from in these kind of pre-season cycle. So we look at the Shimmercasses, as we can kind of all agree, we've been really impressed with when he's featured. But we're going to close the conversation on one person and one person only. That's Mark's favorite person. And that's Naby Keita. Julian, me and you had the conversation that last week that we weren't going to buy NAB coin at the dip. We weren't going to invest. And if we were, we're going to invest a little bit of amount. How are you feeling now about it? Because I'm not going to lie. I'm thinking if this brother can put, and it's a big if. It's a big if. If he can put a 5-game run together. Ooh.
You know what? I think I have to watch the market when we play against Norwich and see how that stock is affected on that day. When the market opens on the Premier League, if he starts against Norwich, we'll assess that stock and we'll see what we can. But no, he looked good, man. Looked good. He actually recovered and started an attack, and he looked sharp. He looked like the most sharp I've actually seen him at Liverpool. But again, that could be because he's playing 45 minutes and he's playing against guys that are also in pre-season. So we'll see what he has when the tempo is much higher, when the stakes are much higher, and teams have a low block and stuff like that. We'll see, man. But it's looking good. It's looking good. Let's just hope that again we can get 5 games out of him in a row.
Dave, I know you've been watching pre-season quite intently, quite closely. Have you been impressed? And are you starting to drink the Kool-Aid?
with Naby, I've always been a fan. So, but whether it's the dip, well, I'm buying the dip. I'm buying when the stock is high. With Naby, I think like everyone knows, the issue with him is injuries. I feel what he's done, what we've seen this season is him show like a willingness to be a little bit more robust. So like he's going into challenges a lot more forceful and coming out on top. And even when he loses out on challenge, you see him work his socks off to get back. I think the only obviously the lack of pace is still semblance of an issue, but the quality on board is you can't argue against it. Like the pass to Salah for the goal against who was it against Berlin? Yeah, that kind of quality is rare. That kind of quality to win the ball back and manage to execute the pass in that fashion is rare to see around Europe. So
sorry, I was going to say it's actually weird how with Naby, like you mentioned, he actually rarely has a bad game, like a bad game.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
I think if you look at last season, he started. What a lot of people tend to forget is he started the season in the team, and he started the season fairly well. The issue was
really well, yeah.
The issue was the Villa game. Basically, he had a poor game, but you're talking about nine others also had a poor game in that. So he just happened to be the scapegoat, and Liverpool just happened to have Jordan Henderson ready and waiting to come and replace him in the team. So I feel with Naby, there's not an issue with the quality. It's just that if we can find a way to get him a consistent run in the team, given the number of options we have, I'm sure he'll flourish. And I think that's been the case for the past season or two, whereby we just need to find a way to get him a consistent run in the team, and show, and not just get him a consistent run. There needs to be like a willingness to show that we're confident in his ability, so that even if he were to have a poor game, it's not okay. You've had a poor game. We're not seeing you for the next month or so. It's okay. You've had a poor game. We take the L. You move on. You're back in the team the following week. I think that's what we need to do. I think that's what needs to happen with Naby in order for us to get the Naby that we paid 50+ million for.
I forgot it was that much money, to be fair. But no, I completely agree. And when you do look at him play, he's very much a rhythm player. But the thing about being a rhythm player is you have to get in a rhythm to be able to, be a rhythm player. And unfortunately, during his Liverpool tenure, he's failed to do that. Mark, last but not least.
Yeah, let's end it on a light note, man. NAB coins going up, stocks appreciated, balance sheets looking healthy. But let's see what happens when the bailiffs start knocking and they start coming back for their debts, and we need to start paying back. Naby has always been a talented player, like David has said. I feel like he is amazingly gifted on the ball, and I feel like in the midfield of Naby, Thiago, and Fabinho, we have an extremely technical midfield that should be able to break down most low blocks. The thing with Naby is, again, it's that confidence in terms of when he does have a setback, he doesn't seem to bounce back straight away. And part of it is the fact that he's taken out the team and he is scapegoated. And part of it is he hasn't been the most robust. So when he does come back from injury, he can't hit the ground running all the time. Like you mentioned, Chris, he is a rhythm player and he needs to get a consistent run of games together to display his best ability. So I'm hoping in the time period that, especially towards the front of the season when people are still getting fit, he'll be able to get that 60-minute run in 5 different games, or maybe even a 90-minute run in a couple games. Notably in not the Hertha Berlin match, the game before that, he was one of, I believe, 5 players that got 60 minutes. I think it was him, Mo Salah, James Milner, and Mane. I don't know who the other player was off the top of my head, but those 5 players got 60 minutes, and maybe that's Klopp alluding to the fact that he wants Naby to get as fit as possible coming into the start of the season. Just get him as many minutes as possible in pre-season so he is ready to hit the ground running. Norwich will be a great chance for him to display all his talent because they're going to come out and play. They are a championship level side. He should be able to eat them alive quality-wise. and having Thiago, I'm guessing Jota, Salah, and Mane in front of him. He's already built up a relationship with Salah, built up a relationship with Mane. I want to see a bit more from that Jota relationship. Obviously, he hasn't had a chance to play with Jota too much, being that it was Jota's first season, he was injured, and Naby's consistently in and off the treatment bench. But it'll be nice to see him develop that relationship a bit more, because I feel like Naby is a ridiculous playmaker on his day. He's able to see passes that we wouldn't even imagine. I'm just thinking back to, I believe, the Villa game where he threaded the needle for Mane's goal, and he literally slipped it like ridiculously between players. And not many people can do that. Not many people in the present day and age are able to beat a man off the dribble all the time. Like every single time he looks like he's running at his man, I can tell he has the beating of his man. He doesn't even need to do too much. It's a step over, a quick shimmy, he's gone. And he's not the fastest, so how can he consistently do that? It's just the talent has always been there for him. So yeah, let's see what really happens with Nabcoin. I wanted to sell stocks and I was crying in the group because Naby was disappointing me, but
bro, there was no I wanted to sell stocks. You were fully cashed out, man.
Well, I couldn't find any buyers for the Nabcoin, and unfortunately I had to hold it. So now I'm happy I retained it. Obviously, the Bitcoin bubble burst, the Naby bubble burst, and now Bitcoin's on its way up. Hopefully, Nabcoin can be on its way up too.
Hopefully. And again, this is why preseason is so important for him and for Oxlade-Chamberlain. This is the first time in a while that you see both of them kind of have this time where they've gone uninterrupted, again, touch wood, from injuries, and they're kind of getting that team to get their bodies into room, to get their feet into room, to get into rhythm with the team so they can contribute, big roles next season. I'm, cautiously expecting a lot from both of them, in all honesty, going into next season. And I think the key thing with Naby as well, it looks like he's kind of got that trust within his body now from the way he's been playing. He's a lot more aggressive in how he's playing. He's using his body a lot more as well to kind of go into tackles and shield the ball, which is something you kind of saw him shy away from in previous seasons just because of the concerns, with his injuries, and the fact that a lot of people think he's made from crisps. But yeah, this has been an episode of Kop End Fracas. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. It's going to be really interesting from now to the end of the transfer window. Will it be the FSG crowd, the NWO? Will they be victorious towards the end of the window, or will the company men evolution? Will there be a line in the sand? And will they see their day when Vlahovic and Neuhaus join Liverpool? Again, thank you very much for tuning in. I've been your host, Chris. I've been joined by Mark, David, and Julian. Julian's there on the video. There he is, right in the corner. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.